Okay, I was recently on a flight from Wichita to Las Vegas. We get up in the air, and the attendants said that we're going to experience heavy turbulence, or the pilot said that, and they didn't know if they were going to be able to serve us during the flight. Got up into the air, and we had some turbulence, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be based on the term heavy turbulence. Not bad. So they were painting a picture of the worst case scenario. We didn't experience that. And I guess that's pretty beneficial for people to have like a positive result when they're painting a bad picture in their mind. That's what happens in life, though. We can do that consistently. Now, today in the Decide Your Legacy podcast, welcome, by the way, we're talking about how to crush anxiety for good, why you should do that. I got 3 reasons why that'll motivate you. So if you haven't already, do me a favor and subscribe, Apple or Spotify, give us a rating or review. It helps the podcast to grow organically so it can help more people. So I'm your host, Adam Gragg. I am a coach, and I've been a family therapist for over 25 years. I started Decide Your Legacy in 2012, and we are a legacy coaching, executive coaching firm, and corporate development firm. Our purpose is to empower everybody, every person and organization to live courageously. So, by the end of this podcast, I can pretty much guarantee you that you're going to be more motivated to crush your own anxiety, to do something about it, to not let it impact your life the way that it has, potentially for a long period of time. And that's going to be exciting. I want to start today with an action. We start off every podcast with some kind of an action, and I want to share with you an action that I have taken recently because that was kind of scary, facing an anxiety. And what happened? So I decided to talk to my daughter about a concerning thing. It turns out that my fear with her was not valid, that what I was afraid of didn't happen. So she has a boyfriend, and it's her first boyfriend. And I was concerned with some pictures that she had posted, thinking it was from her boyfriend's bedroom, and they weren't. And so in my mind, I thought, like, these don't look good. I want to talk to her about it. Probably not the best thing. But it turns out on the couch, and it was how I was just painting something in my mind that wasn't true. I didn't think like anything really bad was happening, but had the conversation with her. And the reason I want you to think about something that you're going to take an action on is because not much is more important to your mental health than facing your fears, doing courageous things. And not much is more damaging than just playing it safe. I am convinced that if you do something that is going to face a fear, and we know this psychologically, know it from research, that's going to actually help you decrease your anxiety faster than anything, because you're going to get new evidence that that bad thing is not actually going to happen, like I got in my conversation with Emerson, like I got on that flight from Wichita to Las Vegas. So I want you to think about something in your life that is holding you back. It gives you some anxiety. Okay. And be honest with yourself. Like, is it a relationship? Is it a certain work task? Is it learning some new skill? Is it an activity that you engage in or want to learn, but you keep backing off and not actually engaging it? Is it even meeting new people or fun? So write that down or speak it into your phone and think about that as we go through this content. So a big reason that I believe one big reason that I believe is essential to grasp when it comes to anxiety is that you miss a lot of opportunities. You know, people miss adventures in their life. They miss meeting new people. They miss romance. They miss financial benefits. They miss health, prospering in their health. You know, there's consequences. They miss weddings and graduations and time with family because of anxiety. Things that they wish they would have done, but they didn't do. You know, you regret the actions that you wanted to take, but you didn't take. You regret times where you wanted to step out and you held back. Maybe you even did something that was scary, but you held back. You didn't go all in and you didn't give it a chance. That's what we end up regretting. We don't regret the things we avoid. Don't let that be you. So anxiety, though, let's just talk about anxiety for a little bit. I think people misunderstand it frequently, and it's important to really understand what this is. So anxiety is your brain's way. It's trying to keep you safe. So it's analyzing the world around you, and it's saying, that could hurt me, that could hurt me, this could go wrong, that could go wrong. And there's some logic to that, because if you're prepared for what could potentially go wrong, then you're ready to face it. Like it's getting you in that place where you can handle difficult things. So we get into anxious states frequently because we've been hurt in a situation and we don't want that to happen again. We have been taken advantage of. We've had a bad situation in a relationship. We've had a boss that didn't treat us right. And so we go into a new work situation thinking they're going to treat us the same way. So we're guarded. And that's anxiety. And when you can recognize it and name it and say, there goes that anxiety again, that's not true. That's the voice in my head. I like to name it. I like to say it's anxiety or to say it's my inner roommate. It helps it to get me to get some space from it so that it's no longer going to impact me at the same level. Crucial. Very big deal. When we recognize it, we have power over it. We're decreasing the ambiguity. Anxiety is quick when truth is often slow. So you get immediate feedback from things that are fearful, meaning you feel it right away. Now, when you take a courageous action, you're not going to actually feel that. In fact, you're going to feel fear, but you're stepping into that thing that you're doing. It's courageous, and you're getting the feedback down the road. It may not even be the same day, but you faced it and you move forward. So think of anxiety sticks like Velcro, like it sticks quickly, and then it doesn't. It's like this thing that we have that we're fearful, and it's all of a sudden it's sticking into our head and it's consuming our energy and consuming our mental space. When truth and hope and faith, it takes 14 seconds for those things to stick. Okay, so that's more like Teflon. Teflon versus Velcro. One's very sticky, one actually is not. And anxiety is something that it's very tricky. It comes in all kinds of deceptive forms. So truth is kind of tricky too, but it's going to feel very different. I know for me, when I was feeling anxious about my daughter and I wanted to have that conversation with her, it came up really quickly and I felt like I needed to deal with it right away. That's what anxiety does. We go to ourselves like, if I don't face this thing right away, it's going to go really bad. When a truthful, hopeful thought, we have more time involved frequently. Sometimes we don't. And there's a reason for that, because we have two broad definitions of the central nervous system, the parasympathetic and then the sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic, that's the rest and digest part of you. So when that turns on, we're able to relax, rest, we're able to actually rejuvenate. But then the sympathetic nervous system, that's that fight or flight part of you. So when that's triggered, then we believe that we're going to get hurt. We got to do something about it. So when people end up overreacting, it's generally their sympathetic nervous system. There's a reason you have a sympathetic nervous system, because there are dangerous things in your life. There are bad situations that you want to run from. So you want to listen to both of those very wise parts of you, but the sympathetic goes off the rails. And then people do dysfunctional things like drinking and binging to get into a parasympathetic state, and that's going to be damaging to them. When you can do things that get you into a parasympathetic state that's very healthy. Anxiety has a negativity bias. It's very good at seeing what can go wrong. And then we create neural pathways based on our thinking. So people become very anxious because a neural pathway is a pattern of thinking that forms that we are stuck in. It's similar to being stuck in a valley in a river. In order to get out of that river and to get up through to above the valley, above the canyon, we have to hike way up the canyon. It's hard to get up there. We can do it with the right gear and over time, but it's easier to stay in that pathway that we're already on, even if it's going to take us off a waterfall. The neuroplasticity means that you can actually do something about your anxiety. You can change your thoughts, rise above them, and do something about them. Powerful stuff. I want you to grasp that. Anxiety is often viewed as an overactive brain. It's creativity turned inwards. And that means you're very intelligent generally. People that have anxiety are often able to see things from multiple different angles, and they've trained themselves to do that. That's why a drunk person or an intoxicated person or a high person in that state is generally not extraordinarily intelligent. They might be intelligent as a person overall, for sure, but in that state, they're not going to be. They may think that they're quick-witted. They may think that they problem solve well, but how many people who have gotten a DUI have probably told themselves they would never get a DUI, and had they been sober, they would have never gotten into their car. But they did, and they made a life-altering decision, one they can't recover from. There is grace, there's processes and everything, but they made a decision based on not being in the most wise state of mind. So one very motivating thing for you to think of that'll help you overpower your anxiety and do something about it is that you're wasting your life, okay? You're impacting your health. You're getting yourself into a state where you can't get out easily because you're getting deeper into that canyon. You get one shot at life, and I'm sure you can relate to this, thinking at times that you're not changing, and then all of a sudden something happens and you're like, I can't stay here. I have got to do something different. I know there's something better for me. And it may be a health scare, it may be a relationship issue, it may be something in your career, it may be a financial problem. You're hitting rock bottom in a sense. You're saying, I can't stay here. I got to get out of this place. I was comfortable here. I don't want to. That's that regret kicking in. You're starting to realize that you're wasting something incredibly valuable. People would give anything to have their health back when they've done something destructive that's cost them an aspect of their health. People will do anything to get a relationship back, their marriage back, when they've done something that has damaged their marriage. It's that serious. But you can get yourself, as you step back from your anxiety in a state right now, where you're going to want to put more energy into changing aspects of your life that are putting you in a place where anxiety is Lord. Anxiety is fear is leading the charge. You may second guess yourself. You may get stuck in your head. You may be losing sleep. You may be losing years of your life because of anxiety, because of this fear, telling yourself, I should have done this, I should have done that. That was what happened with my dad's dad, my grandfather, Lloyd. My dad would tell me at times in his career when I've asked him, why did you get into this career? Why did you become an entrepreneur? Why did you start businesses? And he would tell me that one of the key aspects, things that triggered him the most, was when his dad was driving around. His dad was a manager for Firestone Tires, and his dad would say, I should have bought that piece of real estate. I should have bought that piece of real estate, but I didn't. And he'd have this regret. And my dad told himself at some point that he wasn't going to be like that, where he's going to miss opportunities. And he took advantage of that because he did things that his dad had never actually done. Regrets, potential loss in our lives, potential waste can motivate us tremendously. People go out and start building relationships, even though they're anxious, because they realize that this is going to bring them joy in their life, because there's joy in the process. They try to rebuild friendships. They try to rebuild relationships with their kids, even relationships with their children when they've been neglected for 10 years or 20 years. And they are willing to step into the potential rejection because their child is hurt, that grown adult, but they're willing to do it because they know that they have one chance and it's worth it. They'll regret not doing it. They start businesses because they realize that they'll regret not doing it. They stop caring what other people think at the same level because they realize that's going to hold them back, and that's anxiety. So you count that cost and you let it stick. Over this last spring break trip, I went with my daughter to California. That's why we flew through Las Vegas. And there were some things that I did that I wouldn't normally have done if I had been in an anxious state. So one was that I went to see my high school actually win a state championship. Go Jesuit Marauders of Sacramento. They beat a college that had a pro's son, a former pro, Gilbert Arenas' son, was on the other team. Amazing basketball player, but they beat this team from LA. And the high school I went to is in Sacramento. Amazing. And I went with my dad, which that would not have been something that I would have done in the past, is invited him. I probably would have gone with some friends, but I invited him. He had a great time. It was a memorable experience. It's their first state championship they've ever won. They've been there 3 times. Very cool. And then I saw an old high school friend at that championship who I hadn't seen in many years. And I met his wife for the first time. It's a guy I knew in college and high school because he went to the same college as me. And I invited him to go do something a couple of days later with some other friends that I was getting together with, who he also knew, on St. Patrick's Day. I don't think I would have done that if I was afraid and anxious. I would have been afraid to be turned down. I would have been afraid to plan it. I wouldn't have wanted to experience other people saying no. And a number of people that I invited did say no. Probably half of the people I invited did say no. That's okay. It's not a reflection of me. It's their loss, right? Come on. And they got to see the pictures of us having a good time, catching up, right? So maybe they'll be there next year. And I should probably tease those guys that missed that St. Patrick's Day get together to rub it in. Just kidding about that. But I wouldn't have invited some friends to go skiing. I actually invited all these guys to go skiing last minute. And two of them, last minute, took me up on it, and I went skiing in Tahoe with two buddies. Thanks, Josh. And thanks, Rusty. I know you guys arranged your schedule so you could make that work. And I know how busy you both are, but I appreciate that because we made some memories. So I would have lost out on these experiences. I even changed my trip last minute. And I generally, with anxiety, I wouldn't have actually done that because I got a business to run. I have a new employee. I have things to get done. I was going to let down clients by extending my trip for 2 days, but I got a text from my daughter on the Tuesday before the Monday, before we were leaving, I believe. And she said, hey, can we stay longer? And I haven't been able to see her as much. She's 18. And I said, I will do whatever I can to make that work. And I made it work. And I changed appointments, and I appreciate my team and my clients for being gracious with me on that. And I know that I can just guarantee you I wouldn't have done that even last year. But it was a risk that I took, and I had 3 more days with family. I wouldn't have been able to go skiing. I probably wouldn't have been able to play golf. And I guarantee you I wouldn't have had some of the conversations I had with my daughter and my parents, but I had those, and I don't regret it. Even though at times, even on that trip halfway, I was like, I should be back working. Don't waste your life. So what is it that's holding you back that you're going to miss out on? You know you're going to miss out on. What are those things you know you're going to miss out on if you give into your fears? Is it starting something new? Is it writing something? Is it publishing? I know that's one of the most terrifying things that I ever did 15 years ago was actually sharing things that I had written on a website. And it was to 25 people that actually knew me, but I sent it out to them and I said, give me your feedback on this. And subscribe to my blog, which had 25 subscribers at that time. But I did it and I got some feedback and it's been worth it. I don't do it all the time where I do things that are scary, but I want you to do those things. So, and even one cool thing I did on this trip too, that I wouldn't have done unless I had thought that I don't want to miss out on this, is we were skiing and 2 of my buddies were being kind of cautious. All right. And one of my friends, Josh, had recently, like in the last 3 years, had broken his leg. And so Whitney, if you're listening to this, you may not talk to me again, but I put a little bit of pressure on these guys to ski some stuff that they weren't comfortable skiing. And I told them, I probably said some things like, you can do it. And it's not as bad as you think. Just follow me. I promise. It's going to be fine. If you get hurt, I'll make sure that the ski patrol comes really fast. And I can see the energy because they skied more of, it was some stuff under the chairlifts, and they skied some things they would have normally skied. But I could even see in that moment that their energy level when we got back on the chairlift was increasing and they wanted to ski longer. At least that's my perception. And I was excited about that. So, hey, you want to check out, hit the link to Shatterproof Yourself. If you found this content helpful on anxiety, you're going to find much more valuable content in this mini course. And it's Shatterproof Yourself Light, 7 small steps to a giant leap in your mental health. And you're going to find the worksheet even more helpful than the video because you're writing stuff down that's getting you to get space from your anxious thoughts and see your potential. Check that out below. You will not regret it. Share it with your friends. The second big reason, the thing that motivates me when it comes to facing anxiety, so crushing anxiety, is that it takes my positive energy away. So you have these times in your life when you're lethargic, maybe the part of the workday where you're lethargic, after you've had a big lunch maybe, or after you're getting ready to go home after a long day working. Well, you don't have energy there. And energy is a strange thing because it's not nearly as much physical as it is mental. Because you can be drained with your day and you can be incredibly discouraged about how things are going at work. And then you close a deal at 4:30 in the afternoon. And what happens to your energy level? It's like, I can go run 4 miles after work now. and I'm going to go home and play with my kids, and I'm going to make dinner. I'm going to tell my wife that she can go hang out with her friends tonight. I'm going to watch all 7 of my kids while she goes and has a good time. I mean, that's what happens with your energy. It's like, but you can put yourself in states where your energy increases by facing the anxiety and crushing it in your life. That negative energy is going to motivate you when you know that it comes on when you don't do things to crush your anxiety. You know, when I came back from vacation on Sunday night, I was in a pretty good mood, got an Uber, and then I was in a really pretty good mood, you know, energized. And then I slept in a little bit, which I don't normally do on Sunday because I had the day off on Sunday. And towards the end of the evening, I started to feel my anxiety increasing. Like, you were off for a week, you know, I bet, you know, bad things are going to happen this week. I bet it's not going to be a good week because you've been off and you're going to talk to your team and they're going to share things with you that haven't gone well, and you're going to have decisions to make, and your clients aren't going to like you anymore because they're going to think that you neglected them, and, you know, especially the ones that you actually rescheduled. That's how it kind of went in my mind. It was all the negative stuff that could happen. How much time did I waste last night worrying? Even this morning, I woke up and I was still kind of in that state, but I got out of it, thankfully. I did some journaling and I had some time to myself to chill and everything. And then those things I was worrying about so far have not come to fruition. I mean, it's been a really good day, been a positive day. But that was such wasted time and energy. And you do that as well. It was all negative energy. And I put myself into that negative state thinking it was going to motivate me, worrying about things that actually didn't happen and that weren't actually going to happen. I don't want you to waste that negative energy by letting it suck out all the good stuff in your life. You might, in your mind, go through all different types of scenarios that could go wrong. You know, people get anxious because of things like relationships going bad, and there's nothing wrong with that relationship. They get anxious about opening mail when they open the mail and it's an encouraging letter when they thought it was going to be a discouraging letter. They get anxious about somebody doing them wrong in their job when that person is actually trying to help them succeed. And just that thought and being consumed by it, again, this represents you getting space from your thoughts. My hands represent anxiety, things I'm worried about. So it impedes everything that I do, everything I look at, it's impeding my vision. And just that moment of getting space is gonna give you the ability to see clearly and have a peaceful heart and to realize that that bad thing you're worried about is not actually going to happen. But you got to fight it. So that's why I want you to get into the place where you know that it's costing you significantly. And you can get there when you remind yourself. So I had a friend I was talking to on Friday, and she was telling me that her son likes to hike. And that's one of the positive ways they connect. And at least he talks about liking it, especially when they're not hiking, but he hates the first 15 minutes. And she asked me, well, what is that? Is there some psychological understanding of why we hate that beginning of a task that's good for us? Because she said after the first 15 minutes, he gets energized. He starts to enjoy the scenery. He starts to enjoy talking more. He's pumped up about the different positive aspects of his life, and they have good conversations while they go on hikes. But it's after that first 15 minutes. And I don't know if there's a psychological term for that. If I did, I would share it with you. But I do know that's been the reality in my life, and that's the reality in many people's lives, is that first beginning part of something that is good for you is going to be really hard. And it may be 5 minutes, it may be 15 minutes, it may be 20 minutes. But you get past that point where you're not nearly as sore and you're running, you're not nearly as drained, you're not nearly as scared because you're learning how to public speak and you're giving more presentations, and the first 15 minutes stinks, but then you get past it. And then you realize that that's where the energy comes from. That's why anxiety is such short-term stuff. It's the voice in your head telling you this is horrible. You're going to fall off a cliff on this hike. You're going to run out of water on this hike. Something bad's going to happen. You push through it and you realize, I can do this. In fact, I can do more than just do this thing. I can enjoy this thing. I can thrive in this thing. And so for me, it's asking myself, what would I do here if I was 10 times more confident in this situation? How would I act differently? How would people see me differently? How would I show up differently? And then if I'm honest about that answer and I'm willing to face the anxiety and fight it and get space from it, I'm able to tell myself, well, I'd step out on that hike and do it. I'd go and put my running shoes on rather than sit there and watch TV after work. I'd take the time to make that phone call to a friend, even though that person may not have the time to talk, but I'd still reach out and leave a message. And I'd get through that awkwardness because that's how I'd show up if I was 10 times more confident. You can do the same thing. How would you show up? I'd encourage you to answer that question. You'd probably show up in some form relaxed, engaged, fun, excited, courageous, confident. You'd act confident because you're 10 times more confident. So you'd come across as being confident. You'd sit up straight. You'd have your shoulders back, just like Jordan Peterson recommends. There is something psychological to that. You're doing things physically that are making yourself get to the point where you feel better about yourself. There's real truth to that. Try it. Just looking people in the eyes makes a big difference. So if you found this podcast helpful, hit the link to Shatterproof Yourself Light. 7 small steps to a giant leap in your mental health. We cover building self-confidence in this mini course and worksheet. Worksheet will help you greatly as well. The third reason that will motivate you to start crushing your anxiety and to work on it is because not only do you just have one life, and not only are you just letting negative energy steal your positive energy, but the third thing is you're missing opportunities to have fun. You're missing opportunities to be yourself. And laughter and friendship may be on my top 3 list of having a great life. Definitely on the list of having a great life. I mean, you can have connections with people where you learn about yourself and you learn about them and you build new relationships through those relationships. And you may be like me at times where you think people are judging you. And I mean, have you been in that situation where you're going into a social situation that you think could be kind of fun, but you're letting that anxiety cause second guessing? They're going to not like me, or they're going to judge me, or maybe you've been through a divorce and you don't want to be around people who may ask you about your divorce, or maybe you think they look down on you because of your career versus their career, their financial condition versus your financial condition, or maybe you're insecure about how you look, possibly. And so you don't face and go into that social situation because of those things that you're telling yourself. And if that's you, and you remember that if you go in and step into those social situations, you're going to have all these good opportunities potentially. And some things won't go well, but you're going to make new friends. You're going to find new business opportunities. You're going to realize your potential in different ways. And all these opportunities are going to come to fruition rather than you sitting back and missing them. And so that's highly connected to not wasting your life and realizing you only have one life. But it's a little bit deeper because these opportunities are the things that are going to propel you to more opportunities and more opportunities because you invited people to do things and you took that step. I can think in my life of times where I would have, if I knew I was going to have that result from trying something and reaching out, I probably wouldn't have done it. And it was actually bad, at least initially, because, for example, I once in a grocery store asked someone I thought was single who had a wedding ring on. I asked her if she was single while I was checking out. Actually, after I was checking out, I ran into her in the parking lot and she told me she was married. She was very nice and friendly about it, but I was kind of embarrassed by asking the question. I didn't want that kind of result. But then when I thought about it after I got home, I was glad that I did it because I did something that was courageous. And she was hopefully flattered and went home and told her husband. And he was like, yeah, I'm glad I have a hot wife. Because what husband doesn't want to have a hot wife, So that's a cool thing. I wasn't a slimy, sketchy dude about it. At least she didn't act like she perceived me that way. She was very friendly. I'm glad I did it. But it wasn't the result that I wanted, of course. I wanted her to say no, and I'd love to go on a date with you this weekend. But that didn't happen. And one time I actually had a situation where my buddies invited me to play poker. It was on a Friday night after work. I had just settled into my Friday night routine of doing nothing. No, I was actually just relaxing on getting ready to watch a movie or something like that. They called me up, said, hey, we're playing poker. And I decided to go. I didn't want to go, but I had remembered some other friends saying, you can't say no to opportunities. People are reaching out to you. Another friend had said that to me. And so I said, yeah, dude, I'll be right over. I'm going to come over. And so there were about 6 guys and we hung out and played poker for like 3 hours. I actually won. That wasn't the reason I was having a good time. It just, once I got there and I let my guard down and I laughed and I had fun with these people, it just all kind of went much better than I thought it was going to go. And it led to me making a connection with somebody as well who I wouldn't have met or wouldn't have actually built a relationship with. I actually knew the guy, but I didn't know him that well, a professional relationship. So all these other good things happened because I said yes. And if you say no to those opportunities a lot because of your anxiety, you're going to have less and less opportunities. When you say yes, because you're not giving into your anxiety, you're going to have more and more opportunities. And you're going to have to say no to some of them. You can't do everything. This becomes a prioritization thing. And opportunities beget opportunities. Say yes to things. Your worst experiences can become your best experiences. Just like the one where I asked somebody if she was married. That to me in my mind was a fearful situation. In fact, I've never totally gotten over that, because if I see an attractive woman that looks about my age and she does not have a wedding ring on, then okay, that's why we wear a wedding ring. Potentially is we're indicating that we're married. So if someone does not have a wedding ring on, I look at that, and if I'm attracted to them, then maybe I'll say something, but the fear of doing that has often gotten in the way of me actually doing it, actually taking that step. But I did it in that case, and I'd do it again. I'm more apt to do it again. And no, I'm not going around grocery stores looking for women without wedding rings on. I'm not doing that. Trust me. I'm not planning on doing that. But, just in casual life, business, professional, social situations, then, okay, I'm more apt to do it now. I'm more apt to face fears because courage begets courage. Hope begets hope. Our worst experiences can become some of our best. It's a big deal. And crazy part too is that you get new evidence. You get new evidence as you actually get these new experiences. So you get new evidence that's contrary to that fear. That's going to help you to see that all that thinking in your head is not actually logical. That's the self-perpetuating cycle. So if somebody's afraid of being in a social situation or flying on an airplane or public speaking, and they keep telling themselves, I'm no good at this. I'm not good relationally. I'm just an introvert. People don't like me. I'm going to fail at that sales call. I'm going to fail in that presentation. And so they don't put themselves in the situation where they could potentially get new evidence. And every situation that they're in, they tend to just perpetuate the cycle because there's nothing new in their life showing them that they can have success in this situation. And you see that with self-sabotagers. So I see this professionally with people. They get to a point where they're about to make a breakthrough in their career. And because of fear, they play it safe and they don't get that new evidence that shows them that they can do this new thing in their career. They're about to build new relationships or make a breakthrough financially. And then they get to that place where they listen to their fears and they don't get that new evidence that shows them that they can push through and get some success. But again, you're going to have to push through more than just once. You're going to push through multiple times to start gaining the evidence that shows you can do this. You can start that business. You can push through, and it's not going to have the detrimental effect that you think. So let's go ahead and review. Here's why you want to face and tackle and deal with that bully in your life, anxiety. You want to go ahead and crush it, and you're going to put energy into crushing it. 1 is because you got one life to live, and 2 is because of the negative energy it brings, and 3 is because of the missed opportunities and the regret you're going to have to live with when you don't go out and do this stuff. So I want you to think, what insight did you gain today from this episode? What was most inspiring to you? By the end of the day today, I want to challenge you to act on that insight. So you're going to do something different based on what you learned. Talk to somebody about it. Teach it to your kids. Everything you learn here, you can teach to your 6-year-old, and they're going to be able to understand it. Communicate it to people because they know what fear is. they have a better grasp on it than you probably do at some level, because they can feel it and it can sink in quickly, because it can be fear that manifests in a different form. So remember that deciding something is eliminating other options. You're deciding one thing today that you're going to focus on. Your legacy is at stake. That's the impact your life has on other people. It's not about you. It's about the impact you get to have on other people. No positive change occurs until you decide to change. Decide today. And 20% of change is insight. 80% is action. A good plan that you act on is 100 times more powerful than a perfect plan that you do nothing with. So again, do me a favor and forward this episode to one friend. Share it saying, this is on anxiety and fear and everything. It helped me out. Check it out. So in closing, I want to close the same way I always do. Live the life today that you want to be remembered for 10 years after you're gone. You decide your legacy, nobody else. I appreciate you greatly, and I'll see you next time.